final panel, and we have the Ontario Centre for Innovation, Nuvation Energy, and Trylon TSF. So we will, the virtual one ready? With Ontario Centre of Innovation, Mr. Raad Qadri. If not, we can go to one of the... Okay. We will come back to the Ontario Centre for Innovation. Nuvation Energy?
I'm here, sorry, Rod Kidder's here.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we will, Ontario Centre for Innovation. Please go ahead, identify yourself and your title, and you have 7 minutes. At the 6-minute mark, I will remind you that there is 1 minute left. Go ahead,
Fantastic.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Rod Kadri. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, Business Development, Head of OVIN at the Ontario Centre of Innovation. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today about the Protect Ontario by Securing Affordable Energy for Generations Act, otherwise known as Bill 40. Bill 40 represents an important step for Ontario, one that links energy security directly to our economy, paving the way for a future that is sustainable and prosperous. For the first time, economic growth is now a formal objective for Ontario's energy agencies. This means they must now consider how their decisions can support job creation and economic growth. In doing so, not only does Bill 40 reinforce the government's commitment to building an energy system that is affordable, secure, clean, and reliable, but it makes energy a core part of a growing our economy. At the Ontario Centre of Innovation, or OCI, we recognize that building the future of industry goes hand in hand with meeting the growing demand for energy. For this reason, we are pleased to see the government identifying and prioritizing energy security as a pillar of economic prosperity. This approach fuels the many industries we support and the homegrown Ontario businesses we champion, many of which operate in energy-intensive industries. From mining and advanced manufacturing to automotive and mobility, construction, agri-food, technology, and more. The future of industry should be powered by secure, affordable, and reliable access to clean energy, and Bill 40 reflects that. By taking on a balanced approach towards energy security and economic growth, it's clear that Ontario's energy policy isn't just about keeping our lights on, it's about creating strategies that drive new investment, economic growth, and jobs across Ontario. Bill 40 is legislation we need today to set up our economy for greater productivity and success for generations to come. At OCI, we view energy security as a driver and enabler of our mission. It powers Ontario companies to build the future of industry, from nurturing the seeds of innovation to embarking on R&D with industry partners, piloting new technologies in real-world environments and bringing these to market here at home and all over the world. We see this in the journey of the companies we support, whether they are leading the adoption of critical technologies like AI, quantum, and robotics to enhance advanced manufacturing and mining operations, building the cars of the future with the next generation of connected, autonomous, electric vehicle and charging technologies, or developing digital health solutions and more. All of these companies rely on a large-scale data infrastructure and require increased grid capacity to power their solutions, which in turn contribute to growing energy demand. Bill 40's focus on meeting the energy demands of data centers, for example, along with expanding our energy capacity more broadly, will ensure that Ontario companies will have access to energy they need to bring their innovations from manufacturing floors to supply chains. This links energy security directly to increased economic output, long-term productivity, job creation, and prosperity. Beyond keeping up the energy needs of today, Ontario is fostering energy security for tomorrow by investing in the future energy sources like hydrogen. Bill 40 prioritizes this by fueling hydrogen development and supporting initiatives like Hydrogen Innovation Fund to ensure the growth of hydrogen storage and generation solutions, along with broader applications in transportation, manufacturing, and heavy industries. For Ontario companies, this means access to a diverse and resilient energy system that will power their productivity for decades to come. With strategic investments into the future of energy security in Ontario, as outlined in Bill 40, organizations like OCI and the companies we support will deliver even greater economic impact. The past year alone, OCI has supported nearly 700 companies in Ontario and helped to create and retain over 6,500 jobs. In addition, the companies we support generate over $680 million in incremental sales revenue. And over the past 6 years, we have catalyzed nearly $4.3 billion in follow-on private sector investments. These numbers demonstrate not only our ability to deliver on Ontario's economic development priorities, but more importantly, showcase boundless potential for growth as energy security plays a growing role in fostering a productive and resilient economy. Most of all, these numbers prove that economic growth does not happen by accident. It's a product of government making conscious decisions that enable jobs to be created and industries to thrive. To conclude, Bill 40 sends a strong message that Ontario is committed to supporting resilient energy systems and the growth of energy-intensive industries that are critical to the province's long-term competitiveness. By creating conditions that encourage increased productivity, job creation, and investment, the bill supports Ontario companies as they grow, scale, and bring new solutions to market, while creating jobs and strengthening our communities. For the people of Ontario, Bill 40 means that energy infrastructure is built and maintained with trusted partners, that critical decisions are made in Ontario's best interest, that the growth in the electricity system contributes directly to local prosperity. It means that our economy continues to expand, and as electricity demands rise, Ontarians can rely on a system that is secure, resilient, and aligned with long-term provincial priorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next panelist is Nuvation Energy. Please go ahead, identify yourself and title, and you have 7 minutes.
My name is Alex Ramji. I'm at Nuvation Energy, where I am the Director of Product Management. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the committee for having me here today. I'm an electrical engineer, having graduated from the University of Waterloo, and as mentioned, I'm employed at Nuvation Energy, where I serve as the Director of Product Management. Nuvation Energy is a technology provider based in Waterloo that designs and sells battery management systems, with our manufacturing occurring in Markham. Back in May, our CEO came before this committee to provide our thoughts on Bill 5, with a specific focus on why it is important to safeguard Ontario's critical infrastructure against foreign adversaries from being able to participate in Ontario's energy and critical infrastructure procurements. Today, I want to highlight the opportunity Ontario has through Bill 40 to further protect our energy systems by supporting Ontario and Canadian-owned and operated businesses in this sector. As this committee knows well, the threat of foreign adversaries purchasing access to our critical infrastructure is a real and present threat to our national security. These adversaries undercut our domestic manufacturers, offering products well below our costs. And with procurement often selecting the lowest cost option, this leads to adversaries gaining access to our electrical grids. Battery management systems in particular make a perfect point of remote access. They are highly technical components that regulate voltage, temperature, and current to ensure the system's stability and protection of utility-scale battery energy storage systems. Failure to adequately safeguard components like this could result in exploitable weaknesses within our critical infrastructure. We have already seen real examples of this sort of behavior this year. Recently, CBS reported that U.S. intelligence services were aware of foreign adversaries having access to electricity, water treatment, and telecommunication plants for years before they were uncovered, all the way down to small municipal utilities who lack the national security expertise and resources. This issue not only compromises our infrastructure, but compromises our economy. Domestic suppliers and manufacturers cannot compete with the artificially deflated prices that our adversaries can produce. Many foreign companies can offer their products at a loss, knowing their government would provide a grant or subsidy to make up for any loss of revenue. We are concerned that this is a strategic and coordinated effort to gain access, not just an economic advantage. In order to survive, we are seeing other domestic companies resort to passing off foreign products as their own, a practice known as white labeling. This practice is conceding to the foreign competition, putting our security at risk to keep their doors open. Companies like Powin, formerly North America's third largest battery storage manufacturer, filed for bankruptcy earlier this year because of their inability to compete due to this sort of practice. If a company like Powin cannot withstand this practice, think about the smaller domestic companies across Ontario and Canada having to shut their doors. This leaves our adversaries as the only remaining source for these products. We would not just be selling out our sovereignty to our adversaries, but the Canadian jobs and livelihoods as well. Ontario, through Bill 40, has the opportunity to break this cycle. We have already seen support through tariff relief programs, which will allow Ontario manufacturers to withstand the uncertainty with the United States. But by prioritizing economic growth and job creation as objectives of Ontario's energy system through a Buy Ontario process, we can not only save countless jobs across the province, but create more jobs and strengthen Ontario's economy and supply chain capabilities in the face of uncertainty. This legislation is a great and necessary step, and I want to thank the Minister for his leadership in making it happen. But it is what comes next that will make the difference for Ontario. It is our recommendation that Ontario take immediate steps to limit the procurement of high-risk control electronics to only using domestic options. This approach should be targeted rather than broad-based, as indiscriminate restrictions could unintentionally hinder industry growth and negatively affect the economy. Not all components within an energy storage system present the same level of risk. Control electronics, including the energy management system, battery management system, and inverters, pose the greatest vulnerability to foreign interference and should therefore be prioritized for risk mitigation measures. Notably, domestic and allied nation alternatives already are available to meet Ontario's needs in these areas. By applying focused restrictions, Ontario can take a precise and deliberate approach to safeguarding critical infrastructure while avoiding unnecessary disruption to the industry and minimizing impacts on consumer costs. Whether this is something to be added to the legislation or part of future regulation or directive is for the committee to decide. What matters most is we follow up on our words with concrete action. Ensuring vulnerable components like control electronics for energy storage are manufactured by and purchased from domestic suppliers cannot just be an idea, it needs to be the standard. The cost difference to do so is only a couple % more on the total project value, and that's a small price to pay for security, reliability, and sovereignty, not to mention the untold benefits to Ontario's economy. Nuvation and its industry partners stand ready to partner in helping make this happen. I want to thank you all for your time today and consideration of this legislation and welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. Our final panelist's deputation is from Trylon TSF. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Trylon TSF.
Thank you. Go ahead. You have 7 minutes, and please state your name and title.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Paul Royal, and I'm the CEO of Trylon TSF, Inc. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today. Trylon is a Canadian manufacturer headquartered in Elmira, Ontario, which is just north of Waterloo. I'm here to speak in support of the government's proposed legislative amendments under Bill 40, which align foreign content restrictions for the Ontario Energy Board with those already applied to the independent electricity system operator under Bill 5. This alignment is more than a technical change. It's a strategic step to protect Ontario's critical energy infrastructure, strengthen supply chain security, and ensure that the province's ambitious electricity expansion can proceed on time and on budget. By closing gaps between planning and regulatory oversight, Ontario is creating a consistent framework that prioritizes resilience and economic development. Ontario is at a pivotal moment. The government's Energy for Generations Integrated Energy Plan forecasts a significant increase in electricity demand over the next 25 years. To meet our growing needs and to enhance our clean energy industrial competitive advantage, Ontario will need to mobilize the most significant expansion of transmission and distribution infrastructure in a generation. New transmission towers and substations will be needed to support this growth, and the choices we make now will shape Ontario's energy future for decades to come. Trylon is a proud Ontario company in continuous operation since 1932. We employ over 500 people across Canada, the United States, and Europe, with our main manufacturing facility and engineering headquarters in Elmira, Ontario. Our products, steel transmission towers, substations, and related equipment, are made using 100% Canadian steel. We're proud to be a trusted vendor to Hydro One and to other utilities, and we're deeply invested in the communities where we operate. Why is it important that we're aligned with the direction of the government is taking with Bill 40? First, grid security is paramount. The COVID-19 pandemic and recent geopolitical events have exposed the risks of relying on offshore suppliers for essential components. By ensuring consistent foreign content restrictions across our electricity system, Ontario can reduce execution risk and protect critical infrastructure from global disruptions. Second, economic growth and resilience depend on strong local supply chains. Every job at our Elmira facility supports 3 to 4 additional jobs in the region. We work with over 100 local suppliers and invest more than $4 million monthly in the provincial economy. Our commitment to Ontario-based procurement ensures that the benefits of our growth are shared across communities, strengthening both the manufacturing base and long-term supply chain security. Third, this alignment creates a level playing field for Ontario suppliers. In the United States, our products face millions of dollars in annual tariffs. Yet we continue to compete and succeed. All we are seeking is fairness here at home, consistent rules that recognize the strategic value of domestic suppliers, just as other jurisdictions do for their own industries. Trylon has invested over $8 million in new equipment and plant expansion in Elmira to increase our capacity and efficiency, with new equipment arriving just this past week. With the right policy framework, we're ready to create 40 new jobs immediately and many more as Ontario's grid grows. We're also planning further expansion in 2026 to increase production capacity and employment. In closing, Bill 40 is a critical step to secure resilient and prosperous energy for Ontario. By providing the means to enable foreign content restrictions across resources procured by the IESO and regulated by the OEB, the government is sending a clear message that Ontario values security, reliability, and economic development. Trylon stands ready to support that vision and deliver the infrastructure that Ontario needs. Thanks for your attention, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. We will start the first round of questioning with the government side. MPP Pinsole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the speakers for taking time out of your busy day to be here and be part of our process. My question is for Nuvation Energy and Alex. In your comments, you said we need to protect our energy systems, and we agree with that. Our government intends to implement initiatives, including imposing certain procurement-related restrictions to foreign antagonists. Could you speak more towards if you believe this is a good thing for Ontario, given today's geopolitical dynamic? Now, I know you touched on this, but I'd like you to go right into detail on it.
Sure. Thank you for the question. Absolutely, I think it is important for Ontario to be focused on this. We have seen, other foreign entities putting a lot of focus and energy into certain industries, and energy storage is one that we've seen, in particular, China have a big focus on. And they've got to a point where they really do dominate the industry. And if we were in everyone was friends and we had no issues of foreign concerns, it'd be okay, we could have happy trade. But the reality is they're really taking over an industry, and there are certainly concerns that we should have with them having that level of global dominance in an industry that touches so close to everyone's home, electricity, our critical infrastructure. And so it is absolutely important that we are protecting our domestic and allied sources of components that go into these systems, because if we see them disappear, we're only going to have one option, and energy storage and solar and other renewables It's phenomenal energy source now. We see it continuing to grow in adoption, and it's because it's a really effective and economic way to continue to sustain the growth that we need in energy. And so if we put all of our eggs into one basket, and in particular a basket that we see lots of concerning things coming out of, it's certainly going to impact our sovereignty and our security.
I agree with that. I think you're right on the money. Thank you.
Any further questions? MPP Dawi?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all the presenters today. I'd just like to ask Mr. Kadri a question. I know you're involved with a lot of, call it startups and working in manufacturing, and so what we know from Bill 40 and from what we're seeing in the market is specified load facilities are coming on board. That includes energy-intensive industries and data centers. I know for the technological side, we need that. And hoping to ask of you what you foresee these new requirements will be to scale up in the province of Ontario.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Thank you for the question. We see AI, and I think we see across the world, AI has become the center focus of a lot of industries. It's no longer an area of technology, but rather it's become a commonplace, and it will fuel a lot of technology as we go forward. And the more that companies look to AI, whether it be in the movement of people and goods, whether it be within healthcare, and the list goes on, I think it's going to require a lot more energy, more intensive. It's become an intensive industry. And as a result of that, this bill supports making sure that there's sovereignty in those data centers, that we have the energy to support them, and that we can ensure that Ontario is a leader in AI and in technology in the future. Artificial intelligence will be a part of every industry. And as we look and as we hear from others, everybody is looking towards us as a jurisdiction for leadership in artificial intelligence, and through this bill, we'll be able to fuel that and provide the infrastructure that will support our leadership in that space.
Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to direct my question as well to the Ontario Centre of Innovation. And as you know, this government is focused on economic growth and business development, so I think we probably have that in common. So thanks for that. And now more than ever with the threat of tariffs. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit what new opportunities do you think Bill 40 could create for business and communities, or the province in general?
I think, thank you for the question. I think there's a lot of new opportunities that it can create. I think as we look at our position and our opportunities, we have to be a little bit more specific about what we have to offer and how we're different than other jurisdictions, and what assets that we have that the world needs, and certainly energy. And we hear this not only in Ontario but across the globe, that's a unique value proposition that we have as a province. And so making sure that we approach it with an outlook on economic and job creation is very important. Hydrogen is something that we're seeing quite a bit, and a lot of companies looking at Ontario as a leader in hydrogen. And that also in itself will create a lot of opportunities for jobs and for economic growth. I don't have to tell you the automotive sector is very important. It's driving towards electrification. With that, we're going to need to power charging infrastructure across this province. We're going to need to power manufacturing across this province. And all of that is front and center with Bill 40, making sure that we have what we need in order to support those industries, create those good paying jobs, and of course, continue to be an economic powerhouse in this province.
Thank you.
Thank you. We move to the official opposition, MPP Glover.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, I'll start with Mr. Kadri from the Centre for Innovation. I don't know whether you're related to the hockey player. No? Okay. Let me go to, you were just talking about Ontario's unique value proposition, because we've got vertical integration, and we've got, we've had it in the 20th century. We had it. I'm from Oshawa. Everybody in my family worked at General Motors. The iron was mined in northern Ontario. It was processed into steel in Hamilton. Then it was made into cars in Oshawa and Oakville and other places as well. Now we've got a similar, value proposition, because we've got rare earth minerals that can be mined here. We can process them here, and we need to get the technology manufacturing happening here too. How do we encourage? How should the government be encouraging that manufacturing, that high-tech manufacturing, to be taking place here?
So the answer to your first question, I was muted, is yes, distant relative.
Really?
I myself am from Windsor, Ontario. So I grew up in a manufacturing community. My father worked at Windsor Assembly Plant for many years. So as you can imagine, I'm like you. Manufacturing is at the heart of what raised me, fed me, and also educated me. So it's very important to this province and to this country and to communities across this province. We as Ontario have become the center of the world when it comes to manufacturing, not just vehicles, but the components that go into vehicles and the high-tech components that go into vehicles. As you know, being from a manufacturing automotive town, automotive sector is usually a leader in new technologies because of the high volume and just people are looking for new components that are high-tech in that. And so as a result of our strengths in automotive, as a result of all the investments that are being committed to this province and continue to be committed to this province, that is also high-tech components like semiconductor related components, hardware, power electronics, and the list goes on. So I think that we are doing a fantastic job in this province as promoting ourselves, promoting our skill sets. There's nowhere in the world that we go that people don't recognize the talent in the workforce that we have in Ontario, don't recognize the strengths that we have in Ontario, don't recognize the growth in our automotive sector, do not recognize the investments that are coming to our province. And I think that we have a great position globally. And if we continue to push, and I think that this bill is a big piece of that puzzle as we drive forward to continue to be that leader. So I don't think we have any shortage of opportunity that's coming to us. And as long as we continue down that path, which we will, and like I said, the world, everywhere I go, I hear quite frequently that they want to be more involved with Ontario. And I like to say they want to buy more Ontario technology. And I think that's a testament to where we've come and where we continue to go in this province when it comes to advanced manufacturing.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask a question about hydrogen. Hydrogen's got such great potential. The Billy Bishop Airport is in my area, and I've talked to a number of people there about how are we going to green the aviation industry? And they say batteries are just too heavy. You're going to have to go to, if we're ever going to get off fossil fuels, we're going to have to go to hydrogen. But the challenge with hydrogen is that you need an entire system built, simultaneously in order to make that kind of transition. What's the government's role, or what should the government's role be in creating, a hydrogen industry with a market here as well?
Yeah, and so thank you for the question. It's a very good point. Not only the aviation industry, but the heavy duty industry, where we talk to a lot of companies, they very much, cars, the future is battery powered, but the heavy duty industries are likely to be powered by hydrogen, which is still electrification, but it's a different kind of fuel that fuels that. And you're right, it does require infrastructure. And just actually more recently, I talked to an aviation company that is looking at utilizing hydrogen as part of their new technologies, which I think is a great step forward. It does take some time. Just like anything, hydrogen requires careful handling, storage, and safety protocols, like any energy source. And so it's great that this bill supports regulated development and strict standards to ensure safe integration into Ontario's energy system and proper oversight to help mitigate operational and environmental risks. And also the Hydrogen Innovation Fund, when we talk to companies, we point to the Hydrogen Innovation Fund, which is a program that's available right now. And that usually attracts companies' attentions to look at Ontario as a place to build, develop new hydrogen technologies and test new hydrogen technologies. It does help that, in some of the companies that we talk to, they're doing some work in the United States, but with all of these things that are in place that support hydrogen development and hydrogen as an industry, we are getting a lot of attention from companies that do want to look to Ontario with everything, considering everything that's going on, as a place to continue to grow and build. So I think we've got a great step forward here, and the right environment is in place to continue to push in that direction.
That's great. Thank you very much. And to the other gentleman, I'll be asking, I've got another round, so I'll be asking questions in the next, but 60 seconds isn't quite enough to get too far into anything, so I'll pass to my colleague.
MPP Serjanic.
Great. Thank you. Thanks to the three of you. Mr. Kadri, I just want to pick up a little bit about hydrogen, and specifically in this bill, if you think it should explicitly state that uses of hydrogen, which might most impact GHG reductions, greenhouse gas emission reductions, should be prioritized. So, for example, using it in electric arc furnaces to make steel instead of coke, for example. Should we be looking at that a little bit more specifically to ensure that we get the biggest bang for our buck to clean our air and our environment, while also moving to, I think, more energy productive uses?
Thank you for the question. I'm a big believer that we should draw industry in and work with industry to better understand what the opportunities are as we look at economic development and job creation. And I think the point that you make is very important. I think that it will likely be an opportunity for that, but kind of closing off and specifying specific areas, I think, limits the opportunity for engagement and bringing companies into our province. I think, like I said, we're in a great position in Ontario. We're well known for our leadership in many areas, including the movement of people and goods, as well as our manufacturing industry, and I use that very broadly, our manufacturing industry. So allowing companies to engage with us more broadly, to come into our province and work with us to shape how we proceed is, I think, the best path forward. And I think that as a result, we'll see leadership in so many areas, including the ones that you identified.
Perfect, thank you. So we were talking a little bit about artificial intelligence and kind of where we're going, that as the world, as a country, as a province, and I think there's some really important points being made and to ensure that we have the energy needed for data centers. Do we, and the energy piece is, I think, only one part of artificial intelligence and what we need to do. I mean, Canada is not top 20, not even top 20 in the world, for example, in supercomputing capacity. So I think, we have a long way to go here in Canada and in Ontario so that we can really be a leader in there. Would you like to see something that ties in all of the different pieces around AI from the government?
Yeah, I think, like you said, artificial intelligence is coming very rapidly at us. Part of it, and I'll just be honest, is, I lived in the world of connected autonomous vehicles where everybody said that they were working on connected autonomous vehicles before they really understood what their role was in that. And I think we're kind of quickly, we're in that area with artificial intelligence, and we hear about that more broadly globally, that, there's probably a bit of a buzz going on. I think that we're doing incredible work in this province. Like, there's no misunderstanding of our leadership in artificial intelligence. There's no misunderstanding of our ability to commercialize AI solutions. I think we're getting into a place where artificial intelligence is not, like I said, not a topic area, but rather it becomes infused in different industries like vehicle technology, like healthcare, and so on and so forth. So I think all the pieces are there, and what we're seeing and where it really sits is how is it part of each industry and the strategy in each industry. And like I said, talking more about the automotive sector, and companies that we speak with, they already know that we are leaders in AI, and there's no shortage of that. So having the ability to power it from a sovereign perspective, and having control over our data centers and having the ability to power it, I think is an important step as we proceed. And we're at the forefront of this in a more tangible way here in Ontario. Like I said, I'm not going to name all the companies, but we have companies that already know that if they want to do artificial intelligence, they should be in Ontario, and we are talking to them about that. So I think we've got the leadership position in that. It's really about the infrastructure. And we hear this from everybody in terms of being able to power the sovereign data within our province. And I think that what this bill will do is make sure that we're doing that, but also make sure that the energy infrastructure is sovereign as well. So.
Perfect. Thank you. How much time do we have left?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about productivity. And I see it's missing right now from the bill. Productivity does talk about economic growth, but growing the economy doesn't necessarily mean we're making a more productive economy. Where do we see, looking at this bill, looking at, I guess, energy platforms, where do we see that going? And maybe I'll speak to some of the folks that are a little bit more in the energy space.
I'd be happy to take that question. We're supporting Bill 40 and in particular, the ability to then drive a Buy Ontario framework to allow electrical distribution authorities like Hydro One to buy Ontario, have a runway ahead of them, which would allow things like long-term contracts, which then allow businesses like mine to invest substantially. We are investing, as I've mentioned when I was speaking, we put $8 million into our plant in new equipment, which drove up our efficiency for certain lines of the products we manufacture by 600%. It's with a runway of understanding that these authorities have the ability to buy Ontario and are even mandated to buy Ontario that we can continue to invest. We face, as I also mentioned when I was speaking, millions of dollars in tariffs annually on all the product we're shipping to the U.S. And that's a big impact. That's millions of dollars that could go to investing in expansions in our plant and new equipment that isn't available for that. So, from my mind, in answer to your question,
the time is up for the first round. We will go to the second round, and MPP Cazzetto.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to thank all three presenters for being here today. My question is for Innovation Energy. You had mentioned in your remarks that battery management system could serve as a point of remote access to manufacturing. Can you explain how that could be the case?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. I would say the first kind of straight, direct way as far as remote access would be if a system, for example, supports remote updates, if it supports configuring things like this that can be done over the air. But in many installations, we hope that's actually not the case. We want these systems to be locked down. If you have sufficient firewalls or other network securities in place, then you protect the local asset without that external communication. But the example I like to give, now I'm not wearing one today, but if I were having my Apple Watch on here, and I'm sure everyone here is familiar with smartwatches, this is a device that sits on our wrist that has Wi-Fi connectivity, it has cellular connectivity, it has satellite connectivity, all on the footprint of our wrist. And so we are working with high complicated, very large electronic systems that very easily can incorporate the ability to communicate with satellites. And so even if you take away this mainstream connectivity method, through firewalls and network security at a site, there is still that vulnerability of, is there the ability to communicate externally via satellite? And so that's concerning. We want to make sure that these systems are built and designed by companies that are trusted, that are, again, domestic or allied nations, so that we don't have to worry about these potential backdoors that could be in place.
I'd like to ask the Ontario Centre of Innovation. I noticed you were speaking about your family being in the automotive industry. I come out of the automotive industry as well. I was there for 31 years at Ford Motor Company, and I joke around I still work for Ford, another Ford. But, we've been able to attract $45 billion of automotive investment to Ontario. And I remember when the previous government was in power under Kathleen Wynne, the CEO of Chrysler Canada had said that this was not a jurisdiction to invest in anymore. It was a service industry here. It wasn't a manufacturing industry. So how will Bill 40 help change that as well as we're moving forward?
Thank you for the question. And yes, I'm my dad worked at Stellantis now, Chrysler, and as you can imagine, I've only ever driven those vehicles. And, sorry, I shouldn't say that. I drive other cars too. This bill will, like I said, I think the many things, but what's most important is we are becoming a jurisdiction. Sorry. We're becoming a jurisdiction, and as you can see with all those investments, that people, it's a testament to our ability to make things and make things very well in this province. And so we will continue to do that. And through this bill, by prioritizing energy agencies, prioritizing economic growth and job creation and their decisions, that will allow them to support these investments, to get these plants up and running very quickly, to make sure that they have the energy they need to produce the vehicles, keep people in those good paying jobs in the province, and also send a signal to others that they should come and invest in Ontario, because we have not only the energy to support them, but also our energy agencies, when they make decisions, are looking at economic growth and job creation as a priority when they make decisions. And I think that signal is very important to industry, to say that we'll have the energy that you need, and we will make sure that as we make decisions, that we will consider your industries, consider your businesses as part of our decisions. And this is a very important position to be in. You mentioned it. We are in a rally. We will continue to be a rally in this province, and making sure that we have that in place is important. The other thing that's important is, as we talk about artificial intelligence and the infusion of our artificial intelligence, not only in products, but also within the manufacturing process, having the energy to support that and to power that, especially here at home, and the data centers here at home will be ever so important as we continue to grow our manufacturing center cluster in this province, or industry in this province. So it is very important to industry to know that they have these things in place, and that government and government agencies are making decisions with them in mind.
Chair, I just want to correct my record. I said CEO of Chrysler Canada. He was the CEO of Chrysler, and it's Sergio Marchione.
Okay, thank you. Next, MPP Pinsona.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This question is for Paul and Trylon TSF. Generally speaking, do you believe Bill 40 strikes the right balance when it comes to maintaining a resilient and clean energy grid while taking into account economic growth?
So I'm afraid I'm not really a legislative expert, so I can't really answer that probably as effectively as you deserve. I will say from our perspective that Bill 40 strikes the right balance to allow regulations to then flow from that the OEB can then require transmitters and others, transmission companies and others, to focus on Ontario industries and drive economic development and drive grid security. So from our perspective, that's our focus. Absolutely, I think that anything that strengthens the companies that support the transmitters and in the anything that supports that transmission intersection of all of these. I'm not doing a very effective job with this. Apologies.
The time is up. We move to the official opposition, MPP Glover.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just. So, first of all, I'll just conclude the last. Mr. Kadri, your relative is one of the greats in the NHL. He was a perfect Leaf, and they should never have traded him. He was tough and he could score, so we could have used his skills there. Anyways, it's just this is a long time suffering and Maple Leaf player, and I just needed to get that out. Anyways. Let's see, Mr. Royal, you were talking about the impact of tariffs. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for what you're doing. It's wonderful to see a Canadian dedicated manufacturer here today, and utilizing Canadian steel and the total vertical integration system within your own company. But you were talking about tariffs. Are the tariffs new, or is this something that you've been battling with for a while?
Absolutely. On March 12th, President Trump enacted regulations or Schedule 99 of the HTS codes
Yeah.
that effectively drove 25% tariffs on all products that we ship to the U.S.
Wow.
Okay? So that was 25%. And then on June 4th, he upped that to 50%.
Right.
And then he subsequently threatened an additional 10% that he was going to implement on or around August 1st. So, these tariffs are now sit at 50% on steel content of all products we ship across the border.
Okay.
And despite that fact, we've worked closely with our customers. We've been driven a ton of efficiency, investment in robotics to drive productive manufacturing and everything else to compete within that environment.
Right.
So it is absolutely new.
Right.
Obviously, geopolitical events over the last, maybe possibly starting over the last 8 years or so, in particular, have driven a tremendous amount more protectionism across borders, and we're feeling a big impact of that.
Okay.
So what we're looking for is to drive, and Bill 40, we believe, does this, allows a framework to drive a level playing field for companies like mine that are based here in Ontario and have all their manufacturing in Ontario and don't want to move across the border.
Right. And so you're talking about, procurement in particular, about that's how we level the playing field by favoring Canadian industries that are hit by these American tariffs, like your own.
100%. Okay.
Yeah.
And we support, as I mentioned, we deal with about 100 local companies that support us month in, month out in allowing us to do our jobs. Yeah. And that creates a whole framework of companies that are relying upon us for that investment monthly.
So if the government supports industries like yours or companies like yours, they're also supporting that entire supply chain within Ontario.
100%. Okay. And we buy 100% Canadian steel. And without that investment in companies like mine, you lose that side of it as well.
How are the conversations going with the government on, supporting procurement for companies like yours?
It's been excellent. We've been at this now for about 3 months. We've met with Minister Lecce's office. We had Minister Harris at our plant just on Friday, and we've had a tremendous amount of support and buy-in for what we're trying to accomplish as a supplier in this area of business, and so I found it to be a tremendous and positive experience.
Well, look, I wish you every success in both those negotiations, but also in achieving this kind of procurement, because this is something that I'm the tech and innovation critic, and I've been talking to tech industries across the province for the last number of years, and one of the things they say is we need a stronger government procurement policy, because yours is a manufacturing industry, but particularly in for startups, if they get a government contract, then they can go to other countries. They can start to export, and they've got the credibility and the stability, to actually get into other markets. Okay.
100%. I agree with that.
Okay. Let's see. I'll go to Mr. Ramji, and you were talking about procurement, and you're suggesting that provincial procurement should take into account whether foreign products are being subsidized to undermine Canadian competition, and whether there is a threat to national security. So how should the government be measuring that when they're looking at developing procurement policy?
Yeah, and I think in general we're seeing energy storage as a whole become much further adopted. We see programs like Oneida or LT1, LT2. Where in Ontario we are starting to see a lot of the economic benefits from renewables and energy storage. And so as we see it growing, there are certain components that do pose greater risk in these systems than others. And so if we were to say, all energy storage coming out of, a foreign entity, it's like we have to put restrictions around, that would actually harm the growth that we are actually seeing through this industry. And so we are advocating that it be a more targeted approach to specifically components that are higher risk. And, for example, we would see anything that's controlling, has the ability, the smarts to actually manipulate the operation of a system, we would say that's a higher risk component, and we should have higher protections around those components. when it comes to passive components or materials and such. It'd be great to have more manufacturing in Canada or more domestic sources in Canada or in Ontario. But the reality is that takes time, and I think we would harm the industry if we put blanket sweeping restrictions on there. And so we're very much advocating for focused, targeted ones around the devices that pose the greatest threat.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you all three for being here.
Thank you. We move to MPP Serjanik. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I want to touch on a little bit Buy Ontario, and I guess maybe for both of you, more in the energy space. And what's in the bill, and I guess there's a new bill coming forward in the legislature right now. What do you need to be able to compete with international competitors? And I guess in Nuvation's case, it's a Canada and a U.S. company. So how does that, how does Buy Ontario work for you folks?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So Nuvation does have Canadian U.S. entities. However, all of our design and manufacturing is actually here in Ontario. And so one of the challenges we have seen, and I mentioned some of the Ontario projects before, is we have companies that are our customers. They might be a Canadian company, and they're bidding on these projects. They're competing for these projects, but unfortunately, they're not winning them. It's going to the lowest cost options, and those options are coming out of China. And so, we have the companies that exist now. We have the technology that we've developed in Ontario. But the challenge is we aren't able to compete with artificially deflated competitors or pricing from competitors. And so by enacting a Buy Ontario or having incentives in order to buy Ontario and focusing on the Ontario economy there, it does allow us to have a bit more of a level playing field and have companies like ours to be able to win these projects and maintain sovereignty in Ontario.
No, I definitely hear all of it around national security. We need sovereign data centers. We need to be able to control, frankly, our own destiny and our own future. And that's the unfortunate situation with the United States, I think, has made us wake up to that fact, to that reality. If a firm is internationally owned, for example, but if they're operating in Ontario, and I think if they've got more than 250 employees, I believe they would qualify for Buy Ontario as well. Is that okay? Does that work?
I think from a job creation and looking at the economy, it's great. We want to see jobs in Ontario. I think when we look at from a national security standpoint, that there are still loopholes or things that need to be further investigated. And so we see this a lot in that even maybe a company is doing manufacturing in Ontario, but we actually see this a lot in procurement as a whole. There's usually layers of companies from where you get from the company that's actually doing the bidding versus the technology that goes into that. And so we are certainly advocates for looking in further and understanding the actual supply chain that's leading to the technology that gets deployed, because we see that there are security concerns when we just look at it at face value.
Perfect. And I think this speaks to Mr. Royal's point earlier around investing in manufacturing to drive your own innovation there, so you're able to produce more with less. Do you want to expand a little bit on what you folks are doing?
Absolutely. So, as we invest in the grid over the next 25 years, and there's a massive expansion happening there, with a commitment for Buy Ontario in this, it allows companies like ours to make big bets on the future, and it allows us to invest to reduce the cost of all throughput of our products, just as we have been doing over the last few years. But it allows us to do that in a more substantive way. And that productive capacity and capability ensures that Ontario has security, not just execution security, to ensure that projects can be executed on time and on budget. But it also ensures that it is, particularly in a company like ours, where we buy 100% on Canadian-made steel, it ensures that that security won't be disrupted by whatever global event. So having that in place and having that investment in Ontario is important for Ontario's future.
In terms of different technologies, and maybe this is for you, Mr. Ramji, and we're talking battery storage, energy storage, essentially through batteries. What is like the in your products? What type of energy, whether it's wind, solar, natural gas, nuclear, hydroelectric, kind of what makes up a larger part of the energy that you folks are storing in your projects that you're building for consumers?
Thank you for the question. The nice part about energy storage, it plays well with essentially any other form of generation. We often do see energy storage coupled to renewables like wind and solar because of naturally the fluctuations that you see in generation there. But that's certainly not the only advantageous market that it can serve. Certainly we see it in grid stability, being able to have remote areas where energy storage is able to stabilize the grid and improve the power quality. We see it for AI data centers a lot, especially as we look at large loads that naturally have a lot of fluctuations. That's really hard on the grid. That creates a lot of harmonics. And so tying that with energy storage as well is a really good way to alleviate that stress on the grid. And so we see really across the board, energy storage can serve all different types of generation really well.
Perfect. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all presenters. That concludes our public hearing on Bill 40. The committee will adjourn, and we will meet at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, December the 2nd. Thank you very much.